people need. So the food security bill is in total actually contradiction, or it is not in keeping with the basic norm, because it is assumed that people will buy the food with the remaining on their own, and if this is given. But the question is, either the livelihood or the purchasing power should be ensured. So when you have jobless growth and the large number of people are not in a position to buy the extremely the food prices which are basically increasing, especially of the pulses. So if you see the consumption of cereals and consumption of pulses and consumption of oil on an average, per capita consumption is actually coming down. And where pulses are concerned, that is the thing which you need from building resistance, or even like the large number of vaccinations that are being given for antibodies to be developed, that certain amount of pulse availability as part of food security should have been basically ensured. This thing about procurement, this question of storage in this food security bill, I think some of those things Manindra and Annie will probably deal with. But what the food security bill does not ensure food security. It does not ensure nutrition security. It leaves out large chunk of people who desperately need food. And when you do not have the basic minimal food, it is for your whole life. It's not like other commodities. It deals with death, it deals with illness, it deals with indebtedness. It is implication of this are much more serious. And so we feel very strongly that the form in which the food security bill is today, that it should not be passed in this, unless some of these other important areas are basically dealt with. Because this is happening with many other changes that are taking place in the food sector. You know, the junk food, and like the Lay's chips reaching the remote areas. So they're saying that the per capita consumption, the consumption of food and cereals and pulses is decreasing because people are eating other things. So there is no regulation of that non-nutritive things taking place on one side. The essential, food not available, not reaching at the prices that are affordable, that happening on the other side. So both these things are at one level very negatively affecting the nutrition and health of the poor, and the most vulnerable being children, and also the women and which are almost 40-50% of our population. And that is why it's reflecting in high infant mortality, high maternal mortality rates, in the wasting and the stunting of children. So this is the situation. So under this circumstance, when you have an act like this, it is really problematic.
Thank you. Mundra, 10 minutes.
Good morning. Meera Madam has already stated most of the points. Well, the food security, the debate around food security mainly centers around how much amount of food has to be provided to the actual number of people who are below the poverty line. Now, there are different poverty estimates in the country, and the current one being the Tendulkar Committee report, which pegs it at around 46% in rural areas and 28% in urban areas. So, the government is supposed to provide cheap food to this particular segment of the population. Now, the thing is that this is far removed from the ground reality. If we look at the agricultural sector only, we will see that we have like 14% of our agricultural, 14% of our GDP is attributed to agriculture, and it still has 58% of the workforce. The average net sown area in our country is about 1.21 hectares as of today, and there are about 83% of farmers belonging to the small and marginal category who have the largest number of land holdings. And these small and marginal farmers constitute about 42% of the net cultivated area in the country. So with such figures, only in the agricultural sector, we still have many more other categories of poor. So the thing is that, you know, these caps which are set up by the Planning Commission, they really do not reflect the ground reality. And by setting these caps, the state governments are sometimes forced to get down the BPL numbers, which by manipulating, and that is where the corruption sets in. In very many cases, states have to increase the number of BPL households and have to provide resources for doing that. And you should remember that most of the poor reside in those states which have got limited resources already. Then apart from this, there is also, there are big inclusion and exclusion errors. There is like currently only 29% of the net production of food grains is procured, and only 22% of the net available food grains are distributed to the PTS. So there is again a question, then why if the procurement is so less, the distribution is so less, then why have distribution? But my humble request over here is that we have to make a change for the positive, and we have to take this very seriously. Storage has to be built, infrastructure has to be built, storage has to be, you know, decentralized. They have to be done at the local level. What I'm trying to say is that this important change needs to be done. Targeting, as experience has shown, has not worked. UIDs will not curb corruption, but therefore the one solution only could be universalization of the public distribution system. There are some people also say that it will ensure good quality of food grains in the PDS, because the middle class and the high class will also be purchasing from here. Now there is a question, why will the high class purchase from there? But there is a speculation that the rich people will purchase and use, give it to their domestic maids or even use it as animal feed, but they will end up purchasing. So the law is supposed to be meant for all. Nobody can be excluded from the law. It's up to a particular person whether or not he wants the entitlement, but law should be there for everybody. Now the National Advisory Council has given, in their draft food security bill, they have asked for food grains at 50 kg per family per month, oils at 2.8 kg per family per month, and pulses at 5.25 kg per family per month. Inclusion of millets as they are sources of nutritious and cheap food, and they should also be given, millets should also be given a fair minimum support price. Food should be provided such that the calorie intake of a moderately active male should be around 2,700 calories. Procurement and distribution should be local and decentralized. Children's right to food should be ensured. There should be special rights for the vulnerable and excluded. No cash transfers. Food entitlement cards should be in the name of women. And there should be an effective grievance redressal mechanism with punishment, penalties and compensation. And there should be affirmative actions for Dalits, Adivasis and other socially discriminated groups. Now let me come to the entitlement in terms of food grains, pulses, cereals, pulses and oilseeds. Now, if 50 kgs per family per month is supposed to be given, and under universal distribution system, universal public distribution system with even 100% takeoff, the cereal requirement in the country would be 120 million tons, and presently the cereal production in our country, deducting seed, feed and wastage, is about 191 million tons. And I mean, this has been over the last 5-6 years, there has been some kind of stability in these figures. In case of pulses, with the kind of entitlements which the NSE has recommended, with 100% offtake at universal public distribution system comes out to about 12.6 million tons. And the total pulse production in the country is 14.66. So here in case of pulses, the gap is slightly less. Hence we are resorting to imports. There is a pertinent need to increase pulses cultivation production in the country. In case of oilseeds, the requirement would be 0.67 million tons and the total production is about 18.3 million tons in case of oilseeds. Now, if you look at the total subsidy bill, with 50%, 50 kg per family per month, universal PDS at 100% offtake, the subsidy comes out to 1,56,000 crore rupees, and the central government, the amount of tax which is waived by the central government, or which is foregone by the central government on corporate taxes and all that, comes to the tune of about 5,02,299 crore rupees. And this is at 100% offtake. Usually the 100% offtake will not be there. It will be about 80% or 70% offtake. In which case, the total grain requirement and the total subsidy requirement will also become less. Now the draft of this, the draft of the food security bill provides 25 kg food grain at 3 rupees kg to BPL households, but as Madam has said, does not provide nutritional security. They have left out pulses and oilseeds. They have excluded millets, probably because they do not want to give MSP on it. In case of APL, again as Madam said, 3 kgs per family, per person per month, which comes out to about, with an average family size of 5, comes out to about 15 kg per family per month, which will not provide food security. Once again, as she mentioned, APL prices, they are supposed to be pegged at 50% of the MSP. So there will be a direct conflict between consumers and producers. Producers will want the MSP to increase so as to cover their rising input costs. And consumers at the same time, their interest would lie in reducing the minimum support price. Apart from this, the government has also agreed for cash transfers. Now, this has to be outrightly rejected at least on 3 major grounds. First is, with rising food prices, the value of this cash is going to get depleted very quickly, even before the government tries to revise the rates. Second is, the moment you give cash transfers, people, the heads of these families, they will use it on frivolous consumption like drinking, gambling, rather than ensure food security. Third is that if minimum support prices are paid to the farmers, it at least works as an incentive for them to produce grains, produce more food. But the moment you replace it with cash transfers, that incentive is gone. So it will have far-reaching consequences on the food security, food grain security of the country. As regards exports of non-basmati rice, edible oils, pulses have been banned. We are currently importing about 0.7% pulses and about 1.9% of our imports are oil seeds. But our imports are subsidized. Import duties have been reduced so as to augment supply, but we have to see that these subsidized imports should not affect, the farmer should be protected from these subsidized imports. Now, recently Professor Jon Grace has resigned from the from the NAC because there have been differences within the NAC members only on certain things. So, some of the NAC members, they have felt that they wanted to follow middle path. No targeted, expand the PDS, but once again you have categories, priority groups, general groups, excluded groups. I ask, how is this different from BPL and APL and AAY? We are again going on to the same. The government in its draft bill has dropped the terms like malnutrition, starvation and nutritional rehabilitation. The government has so-called corrected uniform PDS to targeted PDS. Then the NAC had asked for a nomination of a food commissioner vested with the authority to give penalties and have powers of a civil court, but the government has rejected it. The government has also dropped the grievance redressal mechanism. There have been some positive points also, but then the costs which are incurred, like I was reading this article, that the positive features in the bill include inclusion of midday meal scheme in its ambit. There are good provision for nutritional guarantees in the form of cooked meals for pregnant and lactating women, including for mothers of 6 months after childbirth. There are universal free of cost benefits. There are other schemes proposed by the community kitchens for destitute persons, migrant workers, and special provisions for groups or communities identified as victims of starvation. But the thing is that who is supposed to finance this? As I already said, the most of the poor are living in those states which are already resource poor. Central government is not financing this. They are putting the burden on the state government, which is unjust and unfair. Therefore, the food security bill in its present form should not be accepted in the parliament. Thank you.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. मे बी कुछ पॉइंट्स शायद रीट्रेट करूँगी और रिपीट करूँगी और कुछ 1 or 2 पॉइंट्स मोर आई वुड लाइक टू आल्सो ऐड. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हमारी देश की किन परिस्थिति के अंदर ये कानून लेके आ रही है. जो परिस्थिति मीरा जी ने रेफर किया है कि जो नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे ट्रीटी जो उसमें ये बता रही कि हमारी देश की 2/3 विमेन आर एनीमिक और बच्चों की स्थिति भी बिल्कुल खराब है, उनकी एनीमिक है, ये सारी चीज उसमें बता रहे. उस बैकग्राउंड हमें मन में रखना चाहिए जब हमारे देश में ऐसा एक कानून लाने के वक्त. मगर सरकार ने जो कानून की प्रारूप लाया है इसको लेके ये लग रहे बिल्कुल इस रियलिटी को सरकार ने सोचा नहीं है, ऐसा प्रारूप लेके आया है. और सरकार की परिभाषा क्या है, फूड सिक्योरिटी का मतलब क्या है, सरकार की परिभाषा है कुछ किलोग्राम्स ऑफ ग्रेन्स देना है, वही है सरकार की. वो इसके अंदर फूड सिक्योरिटी सरकार की परिभाषा में उसमें न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी की कोई बात नहीं है और सेफ ड्रिंकिंग वाटर के बारे में कोई बात नहीं है. तो जो परिभाषा इत्सल्फ उसमें बेसिक लिमिटेशन है. और तीसरी बात है कि सरकार ने जो प्रारूप ला रही है उसमें टारगेटिंग है, यूनिवर्सल नहीं है. जो हमारे सामने एक मैं ये नहीं बोलूंगी 100% इफेक्टिव है और या 100% अच्छी चल रही, फिर भी जो नरेगा में हमने देखा है वो टारगेटिंग नहीं था, इसलिए बहुत करोड़ों परिवार इस देश की जो रियली नीडी पीपल बेनिफिटेड आउट ऑफ दैट. शायद मिनिमम वेज नहीं मिलती होगी या बहुत सारी गड़बड़ी इसका अंदर भी है, फिर भी हमें जो टारगेटिंग ना होने से बहुत सारे लोगों को उसका फायदा जरूर मिला है. तो ये टारगेटिंग हमारे देश में बार बार दिखा रहे, चाहे वो पेंशन की बात हो, चाहे वो हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज के लिए हो, चाहे कोई अन्य चीज के लिए भी टारगेटिंग बनाया है, तो उसमें रियल नीडी पीपल उसके अंदर बहुत सारी नहीं आती, वो एक्सक्लूड हो जाती है. तो इधर भी वो सेम मिस्टेक रिपीट कर रही है एक्ट लाके जो इसको टारगेटिंग कर रही है. यूनिवर्सलाइजेशन नहीं होने से बहुत सारी पॉसिबिलिटी हमें कानूनी तौर पे ला रहे की एक्सक्लूजन का. तो फिर सिक्योरिटी, फूड सिक्योरिटी होना है तो एक्सेसिबिलिटी और अवेलेबिलिटी इंश्योर करना है. इसके बारे में बिल्कुल ये चीज साफ बोल रहे कि प्रोक्योरमेंट के बारे में 2-3 जगह पे बोल रहे, मगर प्रोडक्शन के बारे में बिल्कुल एक शब्द भी नहीं बोल रहे. जो जैसे जो और इसके साथ में एक और जोड़ना चाहती हूँ, कैश ट्रांसफर के बारे में सेक्शन 12 और सेक्शन 31 वेरी स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन्स अबाउट दिस इन दिस बिल. तो सरकार जो कैश ट्रांसफर ला के प्रोडक्शन के बारे में नहीं बोली, दोनों मिलके हमें देखने के वक्त मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि जो आपने जो बताया कि हमारी देश के अंदर यदि ये कानून इसी रूप में, इस ड्राफ्ट इसी रूप में पास हो जाएगी तो हमारे देश के अंदर बहुत बड़ा एक अग्रेरियन क्राइसिस के और फूड क्राइसिस को ये एक रीजन हो जाएगी. क्योंकि यदि कोई मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस नहीं है तो कोई किसान इतना एफर्ट नहीं उठाएगी कि जो कल्टीवेट करे. जो there is no cultivation, then there is no procurement, then there won't be any cultivation, then that will lead to a big agrarian crisis and food crisis in our country. So that is one thing. And जो access होना है, जो आपने भी जो शुरुआत में बताया, हमारी बहुत दूर चलना पड़ती है रेशन की दुकान के लिए, वो बहुत सारी चीजें. तो हम जो एक कानून लाने के वक्त ये सारी चीज को लेके वो सारी चीज को जो भी अभी कमियां है उस कमियां को दूर करके होना चाहिए ये एक कानून नया कानून लाने के वक्त। अभी हमारे सामने है कि जो नरेगा इतनी पूरी दुनिया के अंदर हमारे देश में ऐसा एक कानून है क्या है एम्प्लॉयमेंट गारंटी एक्ट, और इसमें भी फिर सरकार ने ये किया है मिनिमम वेज देने का कोई जरूरत नहीं है करके प्राइम मिनिस्टर खुद स्टेटमेंट दे रहे। तो फिर ये कैसे कानून लाने के बावजूद भी जो फूड सिक्योरिटी के बिल होने से भी फिर लोग कैसे जो परचेसिंग पावर इंश्योर करने के लिए क्या प्रावधान इस कानून के अंदर, मेरे ख्याल से कोई प्रावधान इसमें नहीं है। जो डेस्टिट्यूट का जो डेफिनेशन है और इसमें भी फिर बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम होगा। डेस्टिट्यूट पर्सन का मीन्स हु लैक्स रिसोर्स फॉर डिग्निफाइड लिविंग। हमारी देश की 80% लोग डिग्निफाइड लिविंग के लिए जो नहीं है, यही सरकार की खुद की आंकड़ा है। तो फिर इसमें बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स सरकार की खुद की जो डेफिनेशंस के वजह से होने का है। और द अदर पॉइंट मुझे मैं ये बताना चाहूंगी कि जो कवरेज ये एक तरफ का एक जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की पूरी पावर होगी। जो पहले मैंने बोला टारगेटिंग, तो कौन डिसाइड करेगा, कौन, ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट तय करेगी कि पहले टेलर की जो काम कर रहे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, हमने इस जो क्या मेजरमेंट दे रहे, इस ड्रेस का मेजरमेंट ये है, आप इस मेजरमेंट के अनुसार आपकी राज्य की जो पुअर को आइडेंटिफाई करो, किसी को बाहर करो, किसी को अंदर करो, हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। केंद्र सरकार को ये पावर कि राज्य में कौन पुअर लोग है या कौन अमीर लोग, ये तय करने का पूरी पावर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पे। और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट जब भी चाहती है तब इस कानून को जो चेंज करने का पूरा इसका हाथ में पावर है। जो हमने देखा है नरेगा के अंदर भी जो मिनिमम वेज को फ्रीज किया, तो पहले फ्रीज किया फिर इसके बाद मिनिमम वेज ना देने का डिसीजन ले लिया है। तो ये सब देश की जनता की पक्ष में नहीं है, ये भी इसमें एक बहुत बड़ा डेंजर आ रही है। और जो क्वांटिटी भी कितना देना है वो भी केंद्र सरकार ने तय करेगी, या हमारे देश में जो भी जैसे मीराज ने बोला कि एक हेल्थी पर्सन का कितना मिलना चाहिए, वो सब कोई महीना नहीं है, केंद्र सरकार तय करेगी क्या देना है क्या नहीं देना है। और फिर इसमें मेरा ये देख रहे कि हमारी सरकार बहुत हमारे देश की जनता के प्रति बहुत दे आर सो ईगर, क्योंकि फूड सिक्योरिटी कानून इसका प्रारूप पार्लियामेंट के अंदर रखने से पहले से ही इसके अंदर एक कानून के अंदर एक ये ड्राफ्ट के अंदर है एक चीज है कि एडवांसिंग फूड सिक्योरिटी। हमारी सरकार ने पहले वो शुरू किया है, क्या है, कैश ट्रांसफर। मैंने पहले बताया सेक्शन 12 और सेक्शन 21 very specifically deals with the cash transfer। अभी से ही सरकार ने वही बात शुरू कर रही। फूड सिक्योरिटी का बिल लाया नहीं है, वो पास किया नहीं है, फिर भी एडवांसिंग फूड सिक्योरिटी को लेके ये कैश ट्रांसफर अभी जो निलेकने को बताया है कि आपने जो मॉडलिटीज बनाई, आप बताए हमें जो फूड की सब्सिडी कैसे डायरेक्ट कैश ट्रांसफर कैसे हो सकती है, इसका ऊपर आप क्योंकि यूआईडी का आपका लगभग आपकी काम हो गया है, इसलिए अगली काम हम आपको दे रहे हैं, ये फाइंड आउट करके हमें 31 अगस्त के अंदर हमें बताइए। तो सरकार देखो कि मैं पता नहीं कैसे बता सकते कि जो सरकार का एक एजेंडा है, वो एजेंडा इस देश की जनता की फूड एंड न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी को लेके नहीं है। वो एजेंडा इस देश में जो पूरी जो पब्लिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम को बंद करके सरकार की जो सोशल रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, उस सोशल रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी से पीछे हट के इसके अंदर जो भी जो वर्ल्ड बैंक की डायरेक्टिव है, कैश ट्रांसफर करो, कुछ भी करो, ये वो एजेंडा क्या है लागू कराने का कर रहे। क्योंकि दिल्ली में भी हमें ये देख रहे, एक एनजीओ ने 100 घर पे सर्वे करके बताया कि 96% परिवार ये बोल रहे कि हमें कैश चाहिए। हम भी जो राइट टू फूड दिल्ली चैप्टर ने, मेरी संगठन NFIW भी इसमें शामिल है। हम ये दिल्ली का ही, जब सेवा ने 100 घर के सर्वे किया है तो हमने 4,500 घर पे सर्वे किया, उसमें से सिर्फ 201 परिवार ने ये बोला है कि हमें कैश चाहिए क्योंकि ये बहुत गड़बड़ इसके अंदर हो रही है। बाकी पूरी परिवार ने ये बोला है कितना भी कैश हमें ऑफर करो, हमें कैश नहीं चाहिए, रेशन चाहिए, मगर ये सिस्टम को आप सुधारना, ये बात बोल के बताए। तो जो आप फूड सिक्योरिटी देने से पहले ही आपने शुरू किया है, सिर्फ दिल्ली में ये नहीं है, कुछ अन्य राज्यों में भी ये हो रही है। पायलट प्रोजेक्ट ऑलरेडी चल रही है कि कैश ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं। रघुवीर नगर में दिल्ली में 100 घरों में अभी उनकी रेशन बंद किया, जो कैश ट्रांसफर हो रही है। तो सबसे आखिरी वाला पार्ट लेके इम्प्लीमेंट करना शुरू किया है सरकार ने। तो ये बहुत बड़ा एक मुझे लग रहा है, मैं शब्द बोलेगा तो पता नहीं कितना गलत होगा, पर मुझे लग रहा है ये तमाशा है। इस तमाशा को इस देश की जनता, और कुछ अच्छी चीज भी है इसमें, मैं ये नहीं बोल रही पूरी की पूरी सरकार ने एक कदम उठाया, बहुत अच्छा है इसको, मगर कितना सरकार जो रिसेप्टिव होगी इस बिल को एक रियल सेंस में एक कानून बनाने में, ये इसमें डिपेंड करती है ये सारी चीज। सो यही मुझे बताना है। पहली चीज एक्सेसिबिलिटी और अवेलेबिलिटी का जो कोई गारंटी इसमें नहीं है जो सरकार के प्रारूप के अंदर, और फिर ये टारगेटेड है, और फिर इसको खत्म करने का जो पूरी पब्लिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम को खत्म करने के लिए, कैश ट्रांसफर को इसमें इस देश में लाने के लिए पूरी तैयारी इस बिल के थ्रू चल रही, ये देख रहे इसके अंदर। थैंक यू।
So you have taken a little longer on this legislation, but very important. So now we move on to the next one, is the Biotechnology Regulatory Authority Act of India, and Dr. Vandana Srimal will state.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, I'll merge my presentation on the Seed Bill and the Biotechnology Regulatory Authority Act.
And the US.
And the US India Knowledge Initiative.
Okay, fine.
And not take too much time collectively, so we save time. The Seed Bill was tabled in 2004. And the preamble to the Seed Bill and the government's justification to the Seed Bill is first to create a facilitative climate for the growth of the seed industry. Second, to enhance seed replacement rates, which basically means replace farmers' varieties with market varieties. And increasingly market varieties mean intellectual property covered varieties, they means royalty payments, and it increasingly means hybrids which can't be saved every year, and genetically engineered seed. It also talked about boosting seed exports and creating atmosphere for bringing in frontier sciences. We've seen what that has done with the area of BT cotton. BT cotton was introduced in '98 in trials. Since no regulatory approval was taken, we had to intervene through a Supreme Court case, and the commercial sales were only allowed in 2002. Between then and today, 95% of the BT cotton seed market, of the cotton seed market, 95% of the cotton seed market is BT cotton, and it is controlled by Monsanto, one company, which controls most Indian seed companies through licensing arrangements. And for the farmer doesn't see Monsanto, because they still see the names of the seed companies they dealt with. But every one of them has a licensing arrangement with Monsanto. And Monsanto ensures that you cannot sell anything else but their seed. So we've seen India, which had we had the highest diversity of cotton, 1,500 varieties. The most important research institution of cotton in the world, the Cotton Research Institute in Nagpur, which used to release an average of 20 varieties. In addition, Harvard universities and others had very, very strong releases. The moment Monsanto entered the market, the public sector stopped its releases of all open pollinated varieties. Not one from Cotton Research Institute in the last decade. In addition, because the seeds that are sold can't be saved, farmers' own seed supply also disappears. So the public sector seed supply disappears, farmers' seed supply disappears, and you have only one source of seed and only one kind of seed, in this case a genetically engineered variety, which even though it wasn't patented when it was introduced, they collect royalties. And it's about 1,000 crore of royalty outflow from the country every year on one crop alone. So you can imagine what would happen if other crops were brought into this. The Seed Act, both the Act itself and, Mr. Chairman, you also mentioned that it's meant to implement the WTO requirements and obligations under the Trade-Related Intellectual Property Rights Agreement. Actually, we've already implemented all the requirements. We changed our patent law with a second amendment to implement the first part of Article 27, which was to allow patenting of genetically modified seeds. The second part, on the sui generis option, was implemented through the Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. I was on the drafting committee with Shuklaji and some of us, and we managed to put in a strong clause that the farmer's right to save, exchange, distribute, modify, evolve seed can never be alienated. That one clause is the reason for the 2004 Act. Now, it's not even the case that we don't have a good act to regulate the quality of seed. 1966 Seed Act is meant precisely to do that, so that no spurious seed comes into the market. So the government is already very well equipped to control the seed quality in the market. But what the 2004 Act is intended to do, and the seed replacement clause is what tells us that, it's intended to destroy what I call farmer seed sovereignty, the ability to farmers to have their own seed. While the scope of the 66 Act was only agriculture and horticulture, 2004 brings in horticulture, forestry, plantations, medicinal plants, aromatic plants, everything under it. The constitution of the committee that would govern the Seed Act has huge implications for the federal structure of India. The 1966 Act had a representative of every state government. And since agriculture is a state subject, this is necessary to reflect the constitutional rights of the states. In the 2004 Act, the central government will choose 5 representatives from 5 states. Now you can imagine, first of all, how many states get excluded. You can imagine how the states who will be brought in will be the ones who have the similar approach to the seed sector, and what we could get is a representational crisis of a very severe kind. The most important part of this act reproduces what seed corporations have done around the world to ensure that farmers only have access to their varieties, their patented varieties. And this has been done through what is called seed registration. Seed registration sold commercially has been there in the 1966 Act. But the draft of the 2004 Act required registration of even seed that farmers don't sell, their own variety, which before the reform period was 80% of the seed supply of this country. Now, I have watched in the United States how seed registration laws destroys the farmer's seed sovereignty, pushes farmers to dependence on the corporations, forces them to buy patented and genetically modified seeds. In Europe, this was done 15 years ago, and seed diversity has just disappeared because the seed registration has 2 consequences. First, you register everything you grow. So if I'm going 250 varieties or 250 species, which is typical of that average small farm that accounts for 80% of the holdings of this country, I have to register each of them. And I have to register it in a district office. So, and then there's a registration fee involved. This is the reason farmers just say, forget the headache. In addition, once you've registered, it's not guaranteed that you will get the registration. I've had farmers in Europe come to me to say, I had the most successful potato variety that my family bred for 50 years and it's been on the market. The seed registration laws have struck that variety down so that the big companies can start selling that variety. So two sources of seed supply are crushed by compulsory seed registration. The first is a farmer's own variety, and the second is varieties from small breeders who are the most reliable because they breed carefully, they breed in a local context, their customers are constantly bringing them feedback. This year in Maharashtra, 2 times BT cotton was planted. Both times it has failed, and you might have read the news. Farmers have beaten up Monsanto representatives because of this huge failure, because each time they're paying a very, very high price. Now this compulsory registration that is at the heart of the 2004 seed bill would destroy the farmer's seed autonomy, would destroy the diversity that goes with that autonomy, and make farmers dependent on purchased seed like the cotton farmers became. And if you notice the 2.5 lakh farmer societies began in the cotton belt, and even today 80% of them are in the cotton area where the seed monopoly and seed dependency has been created. This is the clause that then we've had, the Select Committee of Parliament had hearings, we've had intensive movements, Kishan Chaudhary ji has done a lot of work on this, and there have been inputs, and there are attempts to change this compulsory registration and not touch the farmers' rights that are enshrined in the Plant Variety and Farmers' Rights Act. And my guess is, at this point, it's a fluid legislation. With the Farmers' Rights Act, the corporations won't want to push it because that's exactly why they wanted the 2004 Act. And without the farmers' rights articulated and enshrined in a very serious way, there is no way the farmers' movements and those who are concerned about farmers are going to represent it. I could say more on the seed bill, but I think that is the heart of the issue. In a way, the Biotechnology Regulatory Act is very intimately related to the seed issue. It was announced the day after, immediately the day after, the Environment Ministry announced the moratorium on genetically engineered BT brinjal after the series of 7 public hearings where it became clear nobody wants it, it doesn't work, and all the claims are false. An earlier version of this had been floated by industry, also around 2004, 2005, so maybe a little later, and it was called the National Biotechnology Regulatory Authority Act of India. Totally an industry body drafted it, and that's why when people say, oh, why does Anna Hazare want to draft a Lokpal? Corporations are constantly drafting laws, but nobody notices it at that point. It was so wrong. There were some consultations, and I remember Dr. Meera Shepherd was at one of those consultations. It was very clear that this was an unacceptable bill. But they brought it back in a worse form as the Biotechnology Regulatory Authority Act of India 2009. Again misleading. Just like the seed bill says, this is to implement WTO, as if WTO hasn't been implemented. The Biotechnology Regulatory Authority Act says this is to implement the Biosafety Protocol under the Convention on Biological Diversity of the United Nations. The convention was signed in '92 at Rio, and the protocol came into force in 2000. No, we didn't have to do this because India preceded the Biosafety Protocol by having one of the strongest, best laws to regulate genetically modified organisms under the Environment Protection Act of 1986, and the particular law is called the Rules for Genetically Engineered Organisms and Hazardous Microorganisms. I was on this expert group of the international biosafety law that was framed. And I know our law was way ahead of what the UN was trying to do in the last decade. It's the 1989 law, I'll just call it EPA 1989, because the title of rules is so long. It's been used very effectively in the country. In fact, when the first trials started illegally, we used that law to sue Monsanto, and they were stopped in 2002. That's the law under which illegal trials, Bihar and Nitish Kumar had them stopped. Across the country, this law has been able to equip governments to take action, or citizens to take action, when either the law is being violated or biosafety issues arise. Now, the key issue of biosafety in genetic engineering is genetic pollution. That once you grow a plant that's genetically engineered, it will contaminate relatives and related crops through pollination, through horizontal gene transfer, and will basically cause what we call genetic pollution. Now, in any form of pollution, there is a requirement that the polluter must pay. In the case of genetic pollution, so far Monsanto has worked very effectively to combine intellectual property law with genetic pollution and say wherever the seeds go, they are theirs, and therefore the contaminated farmer is a thief. Polluter gets paid. Cases like this exist around the world. In Canada, famous case of Percy Smizer, but at least 1,000 cases in the United States. So it's a very, I'm part of an 80 group litigation in the US right now to prevent intellectual property law from allowing Monsanto to use contamination as a way of spreading their intellectual property. It's a very serious case. Let's see what happens to it. We haven't had the outcome yet. Just as in the seed law, the federal structure is being broken to create a centralized system with very, very tiny group. The crisis of destruction of federalism is even deeper in replacing the Environment Protection Act with the Biotechnology Regulatory Authority Act. The first shift is, so far this governance takes place through the Ministry of Environment, which has on its committee the Ministry of Health, all the ministries. So it's not that other issues are not represented. The ministry in the case of biotechnology will be the promoting industry, the Biotechnology Regulatory Authority, biotechnology department itself, which means the promoter will be the regulator, and that's a conflict of interest. In addition, when they say, then they want to replace the competent authority. The competent authority at this point is a series of groups from the national to the local level. There is, at institutional level, recombinant authorities designing any trial, any experiment, the Review Committee on Genetic Manipulation, RCGM, biosafety committees, the statutory body for giving approvals, Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, state biotechnology coordinating committees, so that the state has a role, and even district level coordination communities to ensure biosafety local level, because how can you sit in Delhi and know what's going on in a field in Andhra Pradesh or a village in Orissa? All of this decentralized, multi-tiered structure of biosafety will be dismantled by one man who will be a biotechnology, not a biosafety regulator, a biotechnology regulator. Now we just have to see what the centralization in the hands of those who are promoting that industry does. We've seen what happened when governance was changed to a regulator in telecom. We got the 2G scam. A regulator was created in the hydrocarbon sector. He was involved in the scams with Reliance. So we can, if we see the path of what has happened with regulators, we can see the regulator will be a Monsanto man, involved in all the scams that in the case of seeds don't come out, even though this is at the heart of the lives of people. It's the heart of food security. Another very scary trend, and you know, the Prime Minister is now proposing a regulator for environment, replacing the Environment Ministry. And I call these regulators for deregulation. Regulators for deregulation in the sense that these new laws are meant to stop regulation. So everyone, you know, what's the pressure of fast forward, single window clearance for everything? Now to achieve that, one of the things that must be destroyed is the justice system, because people go to courts when things go wrong. When seed fails, we should have the ability for farmers to be able to go for liability and compensation. The Environment Protection Act is governed by the Code of Civil Procedures and allows anyone who's harmed to go to a court. The Biotechnology Regulatory Authority destroys that and sets up an appellate tribunal saying no court will have access, except in some very special cases challenging the tribunal's Supreme Court. It basically says it shall not be bound by the procedure laid down by the Code of Civil Procedure of 1908. It will replace courts. They're saying it very clearly that the third pillar of a democracy gets knocked down, and you get a very centralized structure. But what does the centralized structure look like? Who gets punished in this law? Not the Monsantos who contaminate our food and create a condition where farmers have no access to seed, and because this will also cover medicine and all of that, other consequences there too, but we are focusing on food and agriculture. Article 63 of this proposed Biotechnology Regulatory Authority does something absolutely unprecedented in the country. It'll punish the public. Whoever without any evidence or scientific record misleads the public about the safety of GMOs and products shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 6 months, but which may extend to 1 year, with fine that may extend to 2 lakh rupees or both. Why is this very important? When they say without any evidence or scientific record. Every scientist I know, every scientist who's part of the network I work with worldwide, who on the call of governments, with government money, did research on the risks